there's anything that makes me lose sleep at all, it's that I don't know how many people, if you put in the web that we help keep food on their table, but say it's 50 people. Well, I take that very seriously, that we need to keep food on their table. We need to stay busy. We need to produce, and we need to be profitable. Because if you're not profitable, you can't reinvest in the business, and you can't do things that others can't do. And that's why I think we've been successful, is because we're always looking for things that others can't do.
Hey, welcome back to All Things Wood Floor. Our guest today, Adam Bissey, Floors by the Shore, Belmar, New Jersey. I'm Steve Diggins. You are the greatest minds in wood flooring. Without any further delay, floor pros around the world, let's get to it. Adam Walter Bissey, welcome to All Things Wood Floor.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hey, I got to. All right, so right off the bat, I've been doing flooring for like 40 years. I had my flooring company, and I've worked with, even to this day, Tom's Floors, Bob's Floors, Eddie's Floors, Ralph's Floors by Fred. You name the name. How come you got Floors by the Shore? It's like the only. That's a cool. That's got to work for you. I like that.
I don't know. It just came to me one day. I definitely didn't want to name my business Adam's Floors or initials either. I do not like anything with initials or somebody's name. I just wanted to have a business that potentially could be sold someday too, if my kids don't want to take it over when I'm, retired and looking to do something else. So I thought it would be something that could be sold potentially someday if it needed to be.
Yeah, my dad had a worldwide moving company with our name on it, and he said, "Don't do that. Never put your name on the company again." I didn't ask questions. I just never did it again. But so now you're in. You're on the Jersey Shore, right? You're in Belmar, New Jersey.
I'm in Belmar, New Jersey. Yep, right now.
So I assume that you're located close to the Jersey Shore, or right on top of it. Do you have a brick and mortar?
I do have a brick and mortar. Yeah, we've had a store for about 10 years now. We're about 5-6 blocks from the beach. It is great. We've really become pretty well known for our spot that we're in, and it's right on the corner of two busy roads. So it's worked out really well for us having a brick and mortar.
And how long have you been in business?
Well, my family started doing floor maintenance in 1984, and then I started my own company in about 1996. I went up to college at Monmouth University, and because I grew up in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia area, and went to Monmouth University, met my wife. So once that happened, I was stuck. I wasn't leaving because she grew up in this area, and really I like this area a lot better than South Jersey anyway.
Monmouth's private, right? Small, about 5,000-6,000 people.
I have no idea how many students it has now, but it's definitely a smaller private school. It was a college when I went there. It actually turned from a college to a university. I have an old ID that says college, which is kind of funny. But it was a really nice school, right on the beach, just like kind of we are here now with my store, and just really dug the area and wanted to, plant my roots here, I guess.
You must be close to probably both New York City and to Philly, right? Is that right?
Yeah, we're like halfway in between. It takes me about an hour and 10 to get to New York, and maybe an hour and 20 to get to Philadelphia. So it is kind of perfect. And if you like the mountains, you're not too far from the mountains either. You can get up to, Vermont's like 5 hours away. You can go to New York State in about 3 hours. So yeah, I always like the mountains too, but living at the beach is nice. And this area I found, unlike other parts of Jersey, is sort of a lot busier during the off season. I used to vacation in Ocean City, Sea Isle City, places like that, Cape May, and those places are dead in the winter time. So there's not much going on. But what I noticed up here when I went to school was that this place was still pretty hustle and bustle during the off season. So a lot of people live here year round. Which wasn't the case that I had remembered from childhood, going to Ocean City, like I said, and Cape May, where, those places are really dead during the off season. So I thought, well, I could be at the beach and I could start a business. Not a bad deal, and work on the beach. And usually when people have a beach house, they have a little extra income.
Yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. If you
people
can own two houses, you're
people here
doing all
they
right.
vacation in Maine, and I tell them, you go up 93, 95, and it goes right up. It hugs the coast. Everybody knows those cities and towns. Anything to the left of that, we have no idea what goes on in Maine. There's nothing, like you said, winter in Maine is hopping and bopping. Summer in Maine is hopping and bopping. Is it particularly a different type of flooring market? I know that when you go down on the Cape or in certain areas, there's so much renters and sand and salt and dirt that sometimes the floor finishes are different. Sometimes what they're installing is different. Is it a different market when you're right sitting there on the seacoast?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing I would say would be different is that it tends to be much lighter colors closer to the ocean. And when we get inland a little bit, it starts to go a little darker again. That's really the biggest difference I would say, but everyone still likes, wide plank. That's changed with the whole market and the species, mostly white oak, but a little bit of maple, a little bit of hickory, look, a lot of pine around here, to be honest. There's some old houses here, some towns here, Bradley Beach, Belmar, Ocean Grove, a lot of old floors, and a lot of it's, vertical grain, red heart pine. So we do sand quite a bit of that and do quite a bit of repairs. We actually have started a collection of flooring that we've removed from houses of vertical grain, red heart pine that we end up using for repairs. And that works out really good. It's definitely a little bit of a labor of love. I don't know if we necessarily get paid what we really should for collecting it, taking the nails out, holding it in storage, and then using it for repairs. But, it really makes such a difference when you can get the wood from the same town, exact match. It really impresses people that we're able to do that.
Well, you instantly mentioned the aesthetics of flooring, et cetera. When you talk with a typical, flooring contractor that's throwing down wood every day or sanding every day, it's usually the body mechanics of it and everything. But just by what you're saying is, you could tell you own a brick and mortar. Which means because you start right with element and design and color and texture and this and that. Is when did you go from flooring contractor to, hey, I'm going to open a shop? When did Floors by the Shore become an idea? First, second, last, later?
Well, it was, I guess, kind of something I'd been thinking about for about 20 years, but was just a contractor for, since 1996, 1995, right around that time, and worked for other stores. Saw like the baloney I was dealing with other stores. They weren't estimating the jobs properly. They didn't think about subfloor prep. They ordered it incorrectly. They didn't order enough square footage. They didn't care, about short boards and the quality of the products that we were working with. And it really just became mundane and really frustrating at times. And I was like, you know what, I'm just done dealing with other stores and the fact that they don't have any clue what they're doing. They've never installed a floor in their life, most of them anyway. And I was like, I'm going to open up my own store. And it was definitely something my wife was behind me, thank God, because that really made it so that I could do it. Because if my wife wasn't behind it, it definitely wouldn't have happened, because it's a pretty big commitment. You're opening up a store. A lot of guys who don't have stores don't know that most of the displays you have to purchase, all the good ones anyway, they're not free. Yeah, like for instance, Mirage. You could. I'm not sure what it costs today, but you could probably spend $5,000-$6,000 per display, because we also do carpet, and carpet is notorious for that. Like only the cheap brands are free. The premium brands, they're all $2,000 to $6,000 just to be able to sell their product. And if you have a store, you got to have products to show. And I was always interested in selling the premium products. I just never wanted to work with the lower quality stuff. like Bruce and things like that. Like you can get a Bruce display for free pretty much. They don't cost you anything, but you want a Mirage display, they're going to charge you for it. And, and to sell a product like Mirage, they won't sell to anyone who doesn't have a brick and mortar. So I wanted to have those premium quality products. And the only way to really do that without going through another store to purchase them was to have my own brick and mortar. So I just pulled the trigger 10 years ago. I guess that would have been at 2014. A lot of learning curve, big learning curve for sure, going from a contractor who always worked in the field. And I had a really good ability to manage job sites. I could have 10, 20 people working diligently, never any downtime, completing projects. And I was really good at that. What I wasn't so good at was running an office. I just really had no idea how to do it at all. It was a huge learning curve. And at first, I hired my sister to work with me, and that worked okay for a little while when we were slower, when we weren't so busy from opening the store. But as things grew, it just didn't work out and we were butting heads. So I was lucky to find a couple people. I found this girl, Laura, who really helped me out. And then from her sister came on to help us out. And this guy, Jose, who used to work for a bigger store who sold to the trade. He used to work for General Floors. So this combination of people who had experience just in running other businesses and working in the trade at other stores kind of helped me put it all together. And it was still a learning curve, though. Like there are still times that we're learning and figuring things out. We're always changing our warranty, our terms of service, our estimates. I look at estimates from 10 years ago versus today, and I had literally no wording on it. It would be like sand and finish, and maybe I'd call out the finish that we were using. Today, I put a lot of verbiage in our quotes. I talk about how we sand, the grit sequence that we use, the equipment that we use, planetary sanders. I never did that in the past. And I usually call out the finish that we're going to work with as well. And I give people 3, 4, 5 different options of finish. I didn't do that 10 years ago. So I feel like we've really evolved in how we present ourselves to the customer, to the homeowner. And not everyone appreciates, I'd say, because it's a lot of verbiage and people are like, well, I didn't really read it. And that's, to their dismay, I would say. It's a shame that they don't read everything I put together. But the ones who do appreciate it, especially I find the engineers, they're some of the toughest customers we work with in general. Engineers, they're dotting their I's, crossing their T's. They really appreciate the quotes that I put together and how much verbiage and time we put into putting them out there. So it's been a big learning curve opening up a store from being a contractor. But now things are rolling pretty well. It's been 10 years. We have all this down pretty well, and we're able to maybe reproduce it someday to open up another store if we wanted, I would imagine.
Well, you go back to the beginning. It's funny you say engineers. We talk about it all the time. My son's an engineer. My father-in-law is an aerospace engineer. My son-in-law is a physicist. And my resume says bilingual. And they say English, French, English, Spanish. I go English engineer. I fluently speak engineer. And they get it, especially when you're getting a technical job. And this. There's a language and there's a personality type. But boy, they really do appreciate it when people that work in the field with their hands that are mechanics, engineers or mechanics, that we can speak their language, get on the same page, cover all their needs, et cetera. And you speak all of that. I think I told you sometimes I consult on people that say, I'm going to start a flooring company. And I tell them, no, don't. And they think I'm being facetious. No, I'm not joking with you. Adam, you got it. You speak. 1, you understand flooring. You understand the different mixed media. 2, you learned right away that you are not the guy to run a certain portion of the business. And you went out and you found that person. We're doing a business article coming up soon about the components in business. Find them, put them together, do the best until you can find the right people to come in for you and cover those positions. When you're putting all this together, does this go back? Did it go back to you getting hardwood flooring handed to you, or was it carpet cleaning? Because all the media. Where did it start back before you?
Well, my parents, they really concentrated on carpet cleaning, stripping and waxing of VCT and Forbo products and really just maintenance. So when I was a kid, that's what we did in the 80s. So I didn't really learn anything about installation of flooring from my parents at all. That was all. Let's just go for this and see if we could do it.
Would you do a wood floor and go, wait a minute, that was a lot more money than carpet?
Well, yeah, actually, I was doing some carpet for somebody, and they were like, "Well, can't you do my wood floors for me too?" I was like, "Sure, I'll give it a try." And didn't go as well as I thought it would.
Never does.
Never does. I actually ended up calling in another wood flooring company to help me with the coating process.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that guy, two of his employees still work for me today, 20 years later.
Isn't that something?
He was older and he ended up having some health issues. And I really liked two of his guys. So his two main guys are now my two main guys, but they've been my two main guys now for 20 years. And that's how I met them, through this. I have no idea how to coat a floor and I need some help doing it. And I actually tried it myself and it didn't go so well. I used like an oil water modified product that was really for like a gym floor in somebody's house.
A little garlic and it'd be salad dressing. You got to shake this stuff up.
So yeah, that was, again, a learning curve. But I guess the one thing about any entrepreneur, right, is they're willing to jump in and try it, and whatever, if it doesn't work, figure it out.
Well, yeah. And, you mentioned displays, and I was a distributor for 40 years. And we know you go in, you have this beautiful display, whatever, Mirage, Main Traditions, whatever. And you go in and the dealer's going to say, you want me to pay for this? You should be paying me for the square footage I'm putting this on. And they do. They're right. I was a retailer too. But you said it on the other side of it, we're as a distributor going, if we give these away free, which is the easy way to do this, the problem is there's no onus on them. Everybody looks at the rack, walks by the rack, dismisses the rack. But when the principal person like yourself says to their staff, listen, we paid $6,000 for that. Let's draw some attention to it. That's when it works. So we used to get the rack in for, let's say, half the price. We'd split it and then give you coupons for the other half so that you could sell the floor and we would give the money back to you. Anything to try to put some emphasis on it. And like you're alluding to, you could sell 300 Hyundais a year, or you could sell 5 or 6 Range Rovers. If you have what you're talking about, you have a little more high end, it's not so much work and the customer knows they're going to spend money. They're not bargain shopping, and you're going to give them something that's probably a little more elite, going to last longer. And you know what? Your installers, right? They're like, this is going to be better quality, easier to put in. It's made better. I would think that your installers are so happy to get products that are good.
That's 100% true. My installers give me a lot of feedback, because now I'm not installing anymore at all. I'm strictly quality control, estimating, and looking for new products too. One of the things I talked about with one of my friends is that regular guys out there who just have sometimes we call them a chuck in a truck, just a guy in a van without the people behind them, don't have time to really investigate and look for new products and see how to use them. And I feel like we do, when you have a team, you have time to do things that other guys don't have time to do. And a lot of that is investigating new products and seeing what works, seeing what's better. We're a tester for Bona, because I'm a Bona certified craftsman. So we do test new products for them. That's a lot of fun. I really enjoy testing products for manufacturers and giving them feedback on that stuff. So that's something that I really dig. And then speaking to my guys about the quality of the products, they are very quick to give me feedback. Wow, this was terrible. And, because they're working mostly with high-end flooring products like Mirage and Allegheny Mountain Hardwood flooring, if we have to use other products that they're not used to working with, they'll give me feedback. For instance, we had to work with an American cherry floor the other day, and the groove was bigger than the tongue. And it was a 3-inch floor. We were just going to nail it down. Well, can't do that anymore. And we can't send it back. The lady's house is already completely taken apart. All the furniture moved. We're ready to install the floor. And the groove is bigger than the tongue. So you end up gluing it down to save save the job and keep things moving along, because schedule is really important thing when you have, I think we have 7 crews now. So keeping that train rolling is a full-time job for Jose here at my office, of like, all right, well, we got to figure this out now. We can't wait till tomorrow. We can't just leave the house and leave it, torn apart after everything's been ripped up. Sometimes I wish we had a little more time to investigate that stuff beforehand. But generally, a lot of times, like for products, we get them delivered directly to the home and let them acclimate and then do some moisture testing. We might not be working with that product until it's ready to install it. And then, sometimes I do wish maybe we had some more investigative time to say, okay, is everything actually fitting together properly too? And I guess because we work with premium products as much as possible, we don't expect something like that to happen, because it doesn't happen with Mirage or Allegheny, and it's never happened.
Are your crews, each crew does everything, or do you go, no, I got a really good install crew, I got a carpet crew, I got a vinyl crew, or do they do everything?
My wood crews do everything, but I also have 2 concrete / vinyl crews that do vinyl carpeting and concrete polishing and concrete leveling. So I have 2 crews that do all of that. The rest of the crews are basically hardwood, and they'll install and sand and finish all of them. I do have guys who prefer to finish over the installation. So I do tend to give those 2 crews more of the finishing, but it's kind of how the cookie crumbles, I guess. And, where they're at, can we send them to a different job? So it's a lot of looking at the schedule and seeing which crew fits what job, but they really can do pretty much anything if they're a wood crew.
What's your account base look like, basically?
My account base, like the territory, or
like what are your customer profile? Is it because I know you do a lot of high end work? I assume that you're probably not doing a lot of print advertising. It's probably a lot of search engine optimization kind of a thing, or like go there. When you go out, how are you advertising and who are you bringing in?
Yeah, so we don't do any print advertising, and not much anyway. The little bit we have done has been completely unsuccessful. I don't know if it works for anybody else out there, but I don't feel like it's worked for us at all.
Didn't work for me.
I would say definitely SEO. Yes. So Google is probably the king still in SEO. Beyond that is referral. And, face-to-face referral is probably the best, but there's a lot of referrals happening through like the Nextdoor app, through Facebook referrals, and then a little bit of Instagram. I have found some good contacts through Instagram that have started to follow me and then decided that they wanted to work with me, whether it was a contractor or a homeowner. So a little bit of combination of all of that working simultaneously, but still nothing really trumps that face-to-face referral of a friend to a friend. And I find that that's probably the best referral that we have.
So your contacts are coming basically from your longevity in business and probably just that you have a great reputation, I would think, right?
I would say 100%. And the fact that we've been in the same location for 10 years now, I think that consistency of location, we've talked to several people like, oh, we just realized you were there. We drove past you 3 times a day for 10 years, but we just realized that you're there. It's our signage is smaller. We have some restrictions on like some of the signs because we're not on a big highway. We're on a smaller highway. So we can't have some giant sign. We have a sign like on the front of the building, but I think it's repetition of them driving by over and over and over. Like any good business, that repetition starts to sink in after a while, and it just takes years. But that's why we kind of like the location that we're in now, because we feel like it's finally sunk into people's brains. Oh, they're there. They've been there a long time. They're reputable. They look us up. We have like 150 5-star reviews, which that's really something to talk about, I guess, because that's really hard to get people to give you reviews.
Yes.
We pretty much ask anybody that we've worked for to give us a review, because no matter what it takes, we make them satisfied. It sometimes is really frustrating and drives everyone in my staff crazy, but we do whatever it takes to make them satisfied. And so we pretty much asked everyone for a review. And recently we got a 4-star review, and the guy complained about a couple little things. And we called him. We were like, well, why didn't you call us first before giving us a 4-star review? Why didn't you just, talk to us? He's like, well, I thought that was good.
Right.
A 4-star review for me is great.
Right. Right.
So we went back, we took care of what his concerns were, and he ended up changing it to a 5-star review for us. So, don't, I guess, settle for a crappy review, because if you talk to the customer and you let them know that you care about their job and you care about them and you care about your reputation, then you can fix it, because we have. That's why there's 150 or so 5-star reviews. And that was the only one that started out as a 4-star. All the others started out as 5-star reviews. But, I guess don't take it for face value. See what you could do to deal with the customer to make it a 5-star review, because a lot of guys will just give up and say, well, they were a jerk. I don't feel like talking to them anymore. That situation where you have tough customers, because if you're in the high-end world, you're going to have difficult customers. There's just no way around it, where you're going to have a difficult designer to deal with, or a difficult builder, whatever it might be. And you have to save face sometimes and just do what you need to do to make them satisfied.
You're right. You got to monitor that. You do. Listen, people don't read more than 144 characters. The fact that they get exhausted even choosing to pick a few stars. Everybody hits, no, another time, later. No, leave me alone. I don't want to do it. I got one bad review ever, and I checked in with that person and found out they picked the wrong location. And it's in there. But, I think a lot of people do now. They when they go look at a review and they look at 5 stars, you spin the wheel, go right to the bottom, look for all the 1s and 2s. And typically you go, well, you can tell that person's not a very friendly person. Then you catch the ones in between. But, you've got it all. I mean, you're just Googling your company online. It's sharp. Look, I know how, I did my company, and I went right for the better graphics. I really wanted it to look good. And people would come and say, oh, I see your vans everywhere. Yeah, we had one. But it looked good. And John Candy used to say, think big, be big, my friend. Just, sure, that's us. Somebody said, I've been by your plant. I'm like, you mean my barn? In the middle of nowhere. So what you have all this going together, because with your retail space, everybody says brick and mortar, but you have what? High-end carpets. What's all your value-added stuff? Do you have all the complimentary things like runners and that?
Yeah, we do a lot of stair runners. I have one guy basically who works for us, who does all the estimating, does all the installation, does all the selling for us. I don't really get involved in the carpet part of the business too much, but we've always focused on the natural products. So we're a huge wool dealer. Pretty much everything we have in the store is wool. And I think people are really surprised when they come in. They're like, wow, where's your shawl rack? Where's your mohawk rack? Like, well, we don't have one. Sorry. We only deal with wool and a couple high-end synthetic carpets. But, I've been a big proponent, especially cleaning carpet in the past. It gave me a unique perspective of how things last and what value is there. Just like wood floors versus like a laminate floor. You could resand it and finish it. Well, a wool carpet has a lot less chemicals in it. It's not made, it's naturally flame retardant.
Sustainable, yeah.
Sustainable. It's made by farmers rather than, dinosaur oil. It is a lot less chemicals, like I mentioned, as far as stain resistance. And my father, even when we cleaned carpets in the past, used a product called Post, which was like a natural carpet cleaning system, dry cleaning system that used like ground up corn husks to clean carpets with. So he kind of started me in that realm of using natural products. And he was not a big proponent of Scotchgard, which I'm thankful for today, because if you know anything about Scotchgard and DuPont and C4 and this product that is biopersistent, that never leaves your system, it's terrible what they did with C4 and Teflon. And that was in these Scotchgard products. And so he was not a proponent of using them and using all natural products like this product Host that comes from Wisconsin. So that started it, I think. And then I saw how carpets wore. If you had a wool carpet versus a synthetic carpet, that carpet after 40, 50 years was still looking pretty good. And you could restore it, and it had a lot more value than a cut pile frisé carpet. So that started me on that realm of, well, natural could be so much better. You just need to maintain it properly, and it'll last 4, 5, 6 times longer than a synthetic. And then from there, the VCT floors that we worked with, I really liked the Forbo or Marmoleum products because they were, again, natural linseed oil based, made in Pennsylvania. And so our value add-on products, I try to go along with things that are like wood, sustainable, natural, way more value than synthetic products.
So listeners understand, when we originally spoke about a few things, they say, well, the industry is all dudes. It's 99. Yeah, and maybe installing and sanding and finishing, but it goes the opposite direction too. There's a lot of dealers. There are a lot of women running high-end design companies, et cetera. And what you and I had talked about, and there's people that are wondering why we're talking about tile, vinyl, carpet, LVT, go into an auto parts store. Go into 100 of them. You know what they don't have in there? The car. People love their automobiles. That's what they buy. That's what they purchase. They go to those places to maintain that machine, make it look great. When we're talking about being a hardwood flooring podcast, the fact that there's a big part of the industry that can move wood as their high-end go-to, but you can add value to that by protecting some of the high traffic areas on your floor by using a beautiful, expensive rug, or maybe there's an area that you got pets, you might want something different, or maybe what we find today, rental properties where people are like, I have beautiful wood floors and I'd like to live there someday, but while I'm renting this and they're bringing in salt and sand and beach wear and that, they'll put LVT over it or something so that they don't have to worry about constantly maintaining that material. So when you and I are talking about how you got your roots in the beginning, and we throw around carpet and vinyl, which something most floor people aren't used to listening to, there's a lot of them out there that are going to be listening. They go, I have a store that does those things. Not everybody jumps in a truck every day and goes out, like you said, the chuck in the truck. So when you're looking at all of this business model, I want to talk with you a bit about how you run your business. Just one thing, going back, what did it look like when you started, when you said, I guess I'm a floor person, and what's that look like today? What does it look like differently today?
Well, we definitely started out more of just pre-finished wood and pre-finished products and carpet. And we started out of a warehouse. Originally for many years, I just had a warehouse in Ocean Township, New Jersey, and worked out of there. I had a little tiny showroom out of there. Used to bring customers into this, just dirty, dingy warehouse, thinking it was like a showroom. and learned real quick that if I wanted to be in the high-end world, I needed to have a high-end showroom that looked like we were high-end. So I think to be in that world, you have to exude it everywhere. Your vans need to be clean and newer. Your equipment needs to be maintained clean and newer. Your guys need to have logoed shirts on. I'm really big on our guys wearing shirts that are labeled Floors by the Shore, clean all the way around. You have to exude that, I think, in everything that you do. And if you're not the whole package, then they kind of see through you, I think, and they know that it's a facade to some degree, but you really need to exude it everywhere. And so I've been huge on that. And I learned actually a lot of what I do today in that from the carpet cleaning industry and the IICRC, which is like the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, Restoration Certification. So I started originally getting certified by them in carpet restoration, water restoration, what else? Upholstery cleaning, odor control, and things like that. And some of those things have really crossed over into me, helping me in my business on the wood side, especially the odor control part of things. And not only that, but the selling part of it. Don't park in somebody's driveway. Especially when you're doing estimates. But if you're doing a job, that's a different story, and you're going to do the work. But before you meet this person and you're going to their house for the first time, there's like a ritual that I kind of do. And one is I never park in their driveway. I always park in the street. I think it's completely rude to park in somebody's driveway. And I think people, even it's subconsciously, they know like, oh, this guy parked on the street. He cares about something. Always wear booties. And even if they say, don't worry about it, don't put the shoe
You
booties
did
on.
it, right? You threw it out there. You cared
I
enough.
threw it out there. Cared enough. Even when you go up to the door, you knock on the door, you step back a couple feet. Because if you're a person at home living by themselves and, you're a stranger coming to the door, I don't want to be right on top of that door when they open it. I want to be a couple feet back from them.
When you're looking at your business model and how you run Floors by the Shore, and there's no right answer to this, I don't think, but it's just because I think that you can answer this well. What comes first, the customer, you, or your team? What comes, because everybody always says customer comes first. I'm not sure that's accurate.
Well, you want them to believe that they come first anyway.
Yeah.
In their mind, they want to come first. But I think, honestly, the most important thing is the quality of the service and the quality of the installation. And because that's what they'll remember forever. If you install a floor that they love, that performs the way it's supposed to for years and years and years, that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember the cost. And they're not going to remember maybe that, they were really nice to me and they didn't smoke cigarettes there and they cleaned up at the end of the day. Those things they remember in the short term. But in the long term, it's the quality of the product that you delivered for them. And so I think the most important thing is the absolute best that you can do and dotting your I's, crossing your T's, making sure that the wood floor, because there's a lot of variables when it comes to wood floor installation and success, moisture, subfloor flatness, quality of product. And you have to check all of those boxes. And if you do that properly, the wood floors will last longer than they're alive. And that's, in my opinion, what they'll remember, not the fact that you were really nice and you were clean at the end of the day. Although those things are really important as well for customer satisfaction, it's the quality of the product that you deliver.
Yeah, I read an article a few weeks ago, and somebody had said, forget that the customers are always right. Like, well, that's been burned in our brains. But think about it. You get in an airplane. The first thing they say is, in an event of an emergency, an oxygen mask will come down. Please do not put this on your children, put it on your face, which is appalling. And you go, you can't help anyone if you can't help anyone. And it's the same thing. You like you said, somebody sent me a picture the other day. They said, hey, look at this. My guys did a really good job. I go, good for you. He goes, no, look at the picture we got. The floor looks great. You get paid. There's all these beer cans on their island. His team did the floors, were drinking beer and left the cans on the counter. And he had to get rid of all of them. And I think about what the gentleman in that article said. If your people aren't first trained to follow your expectation, I don't care what theirs are. This is your company, your bar, you're raising it. You got to meet that. Then we don't have to worry that then we can make sure the customer comes first. And then you think about it. Well, maybe you're first because you're the guy that wakes up every day and goes, I want perfection. Maybe not even perfection. I want the customer to have this experience where they're going to come back. Like you said, you built your business off your reputation and your experience. And let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone calls you and the job's all set up and they go, Adam, why aren't you here? Aren't you going to be here?
Yes.
Right?
That definitely has happened, yes.
You and go, then I don't do every floor, but I thought you did.
Yeah, I definitely do quality control and stop at jobs as often as I can. But
good.
We have definitely run across that. But I think that happened to me more in the beginning when, it was a much smaller business and my customers expected to see me at every job because I was at every job. And a lot of times I was doing the work. But as we've gotten larger, obviously that just can't happen. And I find that the newer customers don't do that because they see how we run. Sometimes they won't even deal with me per se. They'll deal with, say, Laura and Jose, and they'll have most of their interactions with them. And then my staff in the field. And we have a lead guy who kind of runs all of the crews in the field as a liaison to the office. And then a project manager in the office, and then myself. So we really have three people that a lot of times the homeowners will have the cell phone of all three of us, and they can speak to all of us. And a lot of times I'm not getting called unless they're upset about something or unless they feel like they didn't have their attention to detail wasn't quite what they expected or something.
Sure.
But So a lot of times nowadays, if things are going smoothly. That's not happening to me anymore. But it did happen in the beginning when we were much smaller, transitioning into a bigger company.
Well, you mentioned Allegheny, right? Allegheny, is that Allegheny Mountain Forest Products?
Yes.
Okay, so from what you do, what does your supplier profile look like? A lot of our guys, they go right to their distributor, or maybe the bigger guys have a line on something they got proprietary themselves. Like, what are your? I really think the relationship that any contractor has with their supplier: one, pay them, work well with them, communicate with them, get project. Where do you get your products? What does your supply chain look like?
Well, our everyday, commodity products, 2.25, 3.25, stuff like that, plain sawn products, we're still getting from local distributors, such as Durr or Hoboken Floors, things like that. But as far as our, especially rift and quarter, because I'm a huge proponent of rift and quarter, and that's really how I got in contact with Allegheny Mountain Hardwood Flooring to begin with, is because they focus on rift and quarter sawn. And then I love their story. I became very friendly with the family. And so now I've been working with them for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. Bob Alberding and myself went up there and sanded their floors and their showroom. So we have a lot of, personal connection with them. That really helps. I love working and giving my business to small family-run other businesses. I really think that that's the right way to do it. I think they're Americans. They're keeping their money in America. They're treating their employees well. They're doing everything that it takes to be a good steward of the flooring industry, just as I try to be myself. I try to take care of your staff, try to give them what they need, take care of all of their needs. They all have families, and I take that very seriously, that we are in control of these families that are feeding their families. And I think that's like really important that you take that very seriously. That's what sometimes, if there's anything that makes me lose sleep at all, it's that I don't know how many people, if you put in the web that we help keep food on their table, but say it's 50 people. Well, I take that very seriously, that we need to keep food on their table. We need to stay busy. We need to produce, and we need to be profitable. Because if you're not profitable, you can't reinvest in the business, and you can't do things that others can't do. Sure. And that's why I think we've been successful, is because we're always looking for things that others can't do, and educating the customer on what's the best thing for their unique home. Because I really find that every home is unique and has different attributes that you have to look at, and educating the customer on why their house is different than their neighbor's house, although their neighbor said, well, I did this and it was fine, why it may or may not be fine.
Absolutely.
So the relationships with the manufacturers really go a long way. When there's issues, when there's questions, I know who to call, and I know how to get answers quickly. And that impresses the customers probably maybe more than anything else.
Hey, Wood Floor Pros, this is Kim Walgren, the longtime editor of Wood Floor Business. Do you think you have what it takes to be this year's Wood Floor Business Ultimate Wood Floor Guy or Gal? Or do you know someone who does? Every year, we recognize 2 exceptional wood flooring contractors. We profile them in the magazine, and, this is the coolest part, they win a trip to Lagler's Fly in Sand training in Germany. You can nominate yourself, a coworker, a spouse, a friend, anyone who works hard on wood flooring job sites for a living and does an extraordinary job. Go to woodfloorbusiness.com to find out how to enter, and remember to be as convincing as possible with your entry. Now let's get back to Stephen's conversation with another extraordinary wood flooring pro, Floors by the Shores, Adam Bissey.
For people that don't know it, you got a 2023 Outstanding Retail Dealer Award.
Yes.
For excellence. And from going in and talking with people that got those awards, et cetera, you run that operation the way I think a lot of people should. That's the way they should do it. You've got the vision, you've got the quality products, you've got everything, people that are working for you, keeping things run the way they're supposed to be. From all of this, what does $100,000 job look like? Because I know you've got them, and most people don't get them. When did you get your first one? And tell me a little bit about that.
First one, wow, I'm not sure when we got our first one. I think today our biggest home job, and this is definitely new construction, I think is at 350,000. That was the biggest home, because there were some big ass homes here on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing some homes that are 6 to 12,000 square feet, and those are just massive homes. So the homes are getting bigger. There is no doubt about that. Usually shore homes in the past, when we were kids, right, they were like cottages. You're there 1,000 square feet, maybe 12, 1,500. That was a shore home. Well, now people live at the shore all the time, especially after COVID, and they're like, we're done with the city, we're moving to the shore, and we're going to build a mansion. So I would say that had a little bit to do with it. Getting our first $100,000 job, I'd say, definitely coincided with having the brick and mortar, though.
Yeah.
I think the brick and mortar gave us accountability, and accountability is what those people are looking for more than anything. They want to be sure that they're going to hand you $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 deposit, that you're not just going to run off with their money. Because I've heard it from several of my customers. The roofer, we just gave him 20 grand and, he's gone. We don't, we're suing him, but we can't find him. and that's a real concern for people. It goes both ways between a homeowner and a customer or client and the contractor. There's got to be trust there. There's got to be trust, one, that they give us a deposit, that we do the right thing with it. We buy the materials we're saying we're going to buy, and we don't go to the, Atlantic City with that money and try to triple it.
I would do that. I'm coming down. I'll be there in 6 hours.
And then there's trust on our side, because we usually do a 3-payment system, like a deposit. We do a second payment once we're done, rip up and prep. And then we do our final payment after completion. So there's trust both ways. We will finish the job before we get the final 25%. And there's a possibility that they could say, well, we're not going to pay you that final 25%. Luckily, it really hasn't happened, because my staff is on top of people. They're constantly, updating them, giving them, the balance of what's due, talking to them about it, making sure that we're all on the same page there. So I would say those larger jobs came with reputation, which we always focused on. But then once the reputation was good, it came upon the fact that we had this brick and mortar store that they knew where to go to if something happened. We can't just close up a store that easy. It would take a lot more to just close up a store and see, sayonara, I'm out of here. I'm taking your $50,000. They know that the business is worth a lot more than a $50,000 deposit, and that for us to do something stupid is much less likely than somebody without a brick and mortar. I think
as a distributor, we had a showroom. It wasn't for our people, because our customers have showrooms. It was for the flooring contractor that just doesn't have time for that, and their customers demanding to see something. Because everybody likes to shop online, but what's the first thing they do? How do I buy a sample, order a sample, go touch a piece? Or they use the internet, then they go out to every floor store on the block and want to see things touch. The biggest thing is, someone will come into your store with a wood sample they got from some other flooring dealer, and you're like, well, you're ripping that person off, because now you want to bring their stuff over here. But because people want to touch flooring, they want to feel it, they want to know what it looks like, and not just photos in their house. When you're working with these people day to day, in the model that you use as a retailer, is there like one particular piece of advice that you think you could give people that is the most successful for you? Is there that one thing that you do so well that's the it?
Educate the client. No matter, some of them don't want to be educated, to be honest. They're just looking for the color. Be like, that color's great. That's what I want. But no matter what, we educate them on their responsibilities. Well, one, the quality of the products we use and our attention to detail. But what is their requirement as a client of ours to make sure that this product is going to last? It comes down to talking to them about humidity. I find that so few customers understand or do anything about it. Do they add humidity? Do they take it away? Some may take it away. They may have some little crappy dehumidifier in the basement that, with a cord wrapped up and plugged into a multi-outlet that's, running 40 feet, and you're like, oh my gosh. and they have to drain it themselves. So a big thing for me is looking at all those variables when I go to their estimate. Like I go into their basement, I see what they're doing, I see what's going on, and I make sure that I correct it. I wrote an article with Gary Szymanski, who's the person that I use for a lot of that work, because I know a lot about it. I know what should be done, but ultimately I'm not the contractor who does that work for them. So I have somebody that I work with that'll encapsulate exposed dirt in a crawl space, who will put in a ventilation system, who will install dehumidifiers, and also do potentially mold remediation and things like that that may be required. And I find that so few understand the concept of humidity, not how it affects their floors, how it affects their trim, their skin, their hair, and not only that, but comfort. If you look at the new heat pump systems like Daikin Fits and how they run, as opposed to old HVAC systems that just pumped cold air in and would cool down a place so fast that it would only run for a few minutes. Well, now newer systems are much more aware of humidity and how that aligns with comfort. And a dry, cool air is much more comfortable than a wet, cool air. So you have to concern yourself with the humidity of the home, because everyone knows temperature. Everyone knows, okay, it's 70 degrees. It's nice for me. That's kind of where I like to keep it all year round. But they don't understand humidity a lot of times. And they don't understand that in Jersey Shore, they think, well, I just have to take it away. I don't have to add it. But in the wintertime around here, and a lot of our homes will be really dry, and especially homes on the water where they think, well, we're right on the water. How could we have an issue with dry air? And my theory is that some of these homes that are right on the water have a lot more airflow around the house and have to run the furnace a lot longer, and also taking air that could be cooler because it's moving around more. And as you take cold air and heat it up, it's getting drier. And so some of these homes will have some really dry air below 10% RH in the wintertime. And they don't understand that really affects the floors, especially engineered. A lot of people are under the assumption that engineered solves all of the moisture issues. And it doesn't. In fact, I tell them that engineered has a much harder time with dry air, and that it can dry cup. I've seen it many, many times, and that you have to add humidity to your air in the wintertime. And generally, you have to take it away from your crawl space or your basement. Now, a lot of homes today, like newer homes around here, are all being raised. So they're all built up. There's a garage underneath. That's less of an issue than the older homes we're working on, because they'll usually have a closed cell spray foam underneath of the house, and that in itself is a moisture blocking system. So, and it's a lot of times conditioned space, whereas in the past, your basement may not have been conditioned, your crawl space definitely not conditioned, a lot of crawl spaces with just dirt exposed, and that's a problem.
Well, you're helping me switch gears, because this is good, because you're way ahead of me. I did a podcast with Bob Goldstein, and he said, thank God for engineered flooring. It's what keeps me busy in my retirement. Because people do think it's the be all. And listen, the stuff is great. The years that we heard, engineered flooring is junk, people don't understand what they're talking about. It comes back to education. But when we're talking about in the field, where we're switching gears now, and you've written a lot of it in Wood Floor Business Magazine. I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube. Explain this for people that are listening and for myself. You kind of go into detail about the subfloor prep, moisture, concrete, gypcrete, et cetera, which is what I do a lot of consulting with. What is the difference between a flat to itself subfloor and a level subfloor?
Well, level subfloor can only be achieved by self-leveler. And generally, the only time we're doing self-leveler is over concrete. I'm not a proponent of doing self-leveler over plywood. So plywood, we will make flat to itself. And so most people are aware that 3/16 of an inch over 10 feet is the standard for subfloor flatness. And we achieve that by sanding the subfloor, sanding out humps, and we use a lot of Ardex feather finish, which is Portland cement. And I've had a lot of success using Ardex feather finish as a product to fill in the dips.
This came up yesterday. Can you nail through it?
Yes, you can nail through it. You could actually pull a nail out of it without it cracking. And I have never in I guess 15 to 20 years now had an issue using that over plywood. You don't need to use a primer, and it can go up to an inch thick.
That's great. That's good.
And it dries very quickly. And I find it astonishing that I don't see others using it online. We use the hell out of it. We literally buy it by the pallet and go through a pallet probably every 6 weeks. I use it to skim coat floors when, if we rip up a glue down floor and it delaminates the plywood, we skim coat the floor and fill in all the voids there. But mostly we use it for subfloor flatness. And I would say more over plywood than concrete, because if it's concrete and I'm putting the wood floor over it, I'm self-leveling it. I didn't used to, and I would say about 8 years ago or so, we decided we would never install a wood floor over a concrete subfloor that was not self-leveled. Sure. We had issues in the past. We had hollow spots. We had different things that just cannot be achieved or fixed without self-leveling. And once we switched to saying, if we're going over the concrete, we're self-leveling, that's all there is to it. If you don't want to hire us, that's fine. Go hire somebody else who can have the issue because your subfloor is not flat. And I would say we've definitely lost plenty of jobs because we've decided to do that. But the jobs that we are doing, we have had absolutely zero issues with. Not one. The moisture is blocked from underneath. The subfloor is flat. We're usually doing a 1/4 inch, sometimes up to 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, depends on the situation. But 1/4 inch is our go-to standard for concrete. And then with plywood, we really just take our time to do a lot of prep, screw all the plywood down first, sand all the plywood seams, sand the entire surface with a buffer and usually 36 grit paper. And then after we've done all that, then we start checking for subfloor flatness, and using 6, 8, 10 foot levels and filling in the dips. And if there's a spot that's just too out of whack, we'll just rip up plywood in that section, shave down the joist. Once we have it opened up, we'll usually either sister up a joist or we'll put some blocking in. And, and then sometimes we're just doing it just because of squeaks, not even subfloor flatness. Recently we came across a house that all the joist hangers had 1-inch nails in it. And the 1-inch nails were just creating noise everywhere. So, a lot of times those are things that I talk about to the customer before we do the job. Hey, here's our cost per bag for patch. This is what I think we're going to use, but until we get into your project, I don't know what we're going to use. So the only way to be fair to you and me is tell you that this is what I think. It's going to be 10 bags. After that, this is our cost per bag to you. We'll save the bags. We'll literally pile them up. And nobody has yet given me any slack for telling them that and for communicating with that before we land the job. Because they're aware before they sign with us that this is what we need to do to make the subfloor flat. And if it's 5 more bags and I have to pay, $90 per bag installed, I'm okay with that because it was already spoken about. Right. And you just got to put that out there before you land a job and communicate all this. And I find that, I guess, a lot of our competition is not doing that. I talk to them about the subfloor flatness standards so they understand that that's what we need to achieve. And that's why our floors don't have issues, don't have lippage, don't have, anything going on with them as far as subfloor flatness. And usually it's, creaking or lippage or whatever it might be, that they understand it and they take our word for it.
But you said a few things early, way back when you said, and people that were listening, well, the groove was bigger than the tongue. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the heck does that mean? When I get these ones that people call and they say, quote, in the morning, oh, here it comes, I walk across my floor and I say, and it sounds like a frozen lake. And I go, that's milling. And a good flooring person flips that over, looks at the milling first and says, all right, we're good here. Or they're not. I've looked at floors and I say, this is very beautiful wainscoting. This is not hardwood flooring. There's nothing hardwood. I go, let me guess. It sounds like ice and it crackles and it goes away and then the kids come home from school and then the next morning it gets worse and worse. Yeah. You said some good things. One, you said, when our customer signs, exactly, when your customer for that kind of money has a contract. And I love that part because I would have people say to me, well, Bob says he's going to glue down 5-inch plank solid to my basement floor, and he does it all the time. And the glue people, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I said, tell you what, why don't you have Bob put that in writing, which never happens. Whenever you say, I get what you're saying, I would never do it or put it in writing. There's a way we're going to do it. Why don't you have them put it? They never will. And then I'd say, well, isn't that suspect to you that maybe they just want to get paid and they don't care what happens to your floor? When you guys set up a floor, and I've read your magazine articles, you're all over moisture. And you said, ask anybody, go on the second, third floor of your house and take a meter and check it out, or just breathe. 85% of the humidity, moisture content, et cetera, comes out of your basement and travels up in the stack effect and gets into the home. Humidity, temperature. Like you said, people say, well, I don't get it because, I live on a lake, but my house is dry. Heat is the factor. The hotter it gets, the more water the air can hold. That's why they go, boy, it's a hot, sticky day. And you look in the news service and it says 90, feels like 160. It's because of that humidity level. I've read all the stuff that you work on. You prep your job mentally and physically way ahead of time. Are there times on the job site that you mix it up and go, well, we're going to use engineered here, we're going to use solid there, and that's got to come up too, does it? Do you mix the two of them?
We have. Mostly for width. But I generally install up to 6-inch solid very comfortably. Once I go to 7, 8, 9-inch, I do prefer to use engineered. And, one of the reasons I like engineered is the lengths.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of longer boards. I'd rather have longer boards than wider boards. I tell a lot of my customers that. So I will switch it up. But we have found that engineered, it could be from the same mill, the same product, that the engineered versus the solid looks a little bit different. So if I am going to do that, we generally do it in the beginning of the job when I'm selling the job. That I'll talk about, maybe I'll use 4 or 5-inch solid on the second and third floor and 8 or 9-inch. So that has become sort of a trend to save some cost, using a wide plank on the first floor and a thinner board on the second and third floor. One of the things I like about Allegheny too is they allow me to order nested bundles or long lengths. So the nested bundles would be 1 to 7. The long lengths would be 7 to 12.
Okay.
Big fan of adding in, a third or more if they allow me to of long lengths. We generally use solid on stairs. I'm not a fan of using engineered on the stair landings, mostly the stair landings I'm talking about there. So that we will pretty much always switch up to. And a lot of times, it frustrates me, but if I'm not in the know ahead of time and I get called in later, the stairs may be red oak, the floors are white oak. What I won't do is install white oak on the stair landings. We will put red oak on the stair landings to at least have that all cohesive. There are obviously products out there to make red oak look like white oak, but none of them are perfect, and they still take an eye and a sense of products and stains to make it look closer, whether it's being cherused or whether you're just using products like Bona Red Out or Pinkvalizer, whatever it might be. So I prefer to keep it all the same, but I definitely have used engineered and solid in the same home.
The same thing. It's so. Yeah. Move on to another topic. I read articles everywhere. You listen to people. You listen to podcasts in the flooring industry, and there's this confusion out there. I hear a lot of people, like you or I or anybody, that would say, well, I'm a wood guy to the core, and there's LVT and there's vinyl and there's all these things and it's all junk, and I only sell this or that. I get that, and I understand as an installer or contractor how proud I was of that, and I didn't do those other things. However, distributors, if you ask a lot of them, are paying a lot of bills with LVT, and remember the Pergo years, we've moved on from that material, which is very suspect, to these beautiful looking luxury vinyl products with longer planks. I did one for my son. It looks like a white oak floor. It really pissed me off. It's beautiful. And I am a big SPC guy, and I was speaking with you, and you had mentioned you're a WPC guy. People that don't get into the LVT part of it, explain a little bit about WPC, SPC, and we'll throw out there why that's important, and give me some differences and why you appreciate the WPC so much.
Sure. Well, I imagine a lot of your listeners are already well aware of PVC and its human rights issues, its chemical issues, mercury, asbestos, kids,
formaldehyde.
Slave kids. Yeah, it's a horrible word out there when you really look into it. And I love that article, The Dirty Secret of the Flooring Industry. I have shared that with a few of my clients. I actually
That's the
recently,
one.
yeah, I recently switched a customer who thought they wanted all LVT in their house to wood. So I'm very happy when I can do that. I would say I am first and foremost the wood guy, but there are definitely people who just insist that they want vinyl. For one, it's cheaper. There is no doubt about it. It doesn't have the value that wood has. There's no doubt about that. They don't seem to care in the moment, because if you're building a $1.5 million build, you got to cut costs somewhere sometimes, and sometimes it happens to the floors, especially because the floors happen later on in the process.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Let's define it for the people that aren't familiar. And you work with it, I teach it. So people will say, well, I'm using WPC. That's a waterproof flooring. And the other, no, it's a wood plastic composite or a stone plastic composite. They're different. And what is it into the WPC? Is it mostly sustainable materials that are ground up into that? Because I know the other is basically mostly stone.
Yes. So, a lot of the products have cork, which I'm a fan of the cork. Core-Tech, TrueCore are probably my two go-to products there. Yeah. Wood plastic composites. And really the only part that's vinyl on the floor is the top layer. Mm-hmm. So you got cork, which is a natural product. You have the core of the product, which is extruded, which a lot of times is limestone dust, bamboo dust, and some other and foaming agents mixed in there so that it's more sound reducing. I like the WPCs for that reason, a lot less PVC than SPCs and a lot more sound reducing as opposed to an SPC, which is much more impact resistant, but a lot thinner. Usually the SPCs are, 5 millimeters, 5.2, maybe up to 6 millimeters if you're lucky. The WPCs would be, anywhere from say 8 millimeters all the way up to 15 millimeters. And if you work with a product that's, 12, 15 millimeters, half inch or 5/8 of an inch, and they're 6-7 foot long boards, and most of that board is natural products, the only part of it that isn't natural is vinyl. So, we may get some slack for that we're working with this, but it has value. It has value in people's basements where they don't want to go all out and self-level the subfloor. It's just their basement. It's their kids' playroom. They don't really care about spending, $60,000 for an engineered floor down there to glue to a self-leveled concrete. And they'd rather us just grind, patch, and protect from moisture with a 6 mil polyethylene and go over it with a WPC. I put a WPC in my basement of my house that's been there for 10 years now, and it still looks brand new like the day I put it in. So you install it properly with a certified installer, not a DIYer, and you protect it from moisture, and you achieve subfloor flatness. They can last. I could see my floor lasting 40 years easily. It's already lasted 10, and it's perfect still.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. What happens is you're in Jersey, I'm up in New Hampshire, so you're New York, New Jersey, I'm in the Boston area, and there's a lot of people around the country that listen to the podcast and around the world that don't have a basement. And here in New England, we got off the Mayflower. There's your flooring. Everybody's got one. Well, one thing is every single home, probably 99% of them don't have anything in the basement. Well, not Pergo, but particularly laminates, which is the name they stole from our industry for years, they put those in. It seemed to be a solution, and then it was the core that fell apart, not the lamella, not the top surface. So when WPCs and SPCs came out, now you had this really durable looking wood, appearance. You could put it below grade. You could put it in a basement and not have to worry about all that. And around here, people that have rental properties, et cetera, could put that where they didn't have to worry that 4 hours away, someone's dragging something across their home that they plan on living in one day, or it's on the ocean, they're bringing salt and sand in. So there's a place for them. You can not only put them in the basement, but like you're saying, there's other places you can use these things. But here's why I was a big proponent of SPC over WPC, was installing them both. It wasn't really the quality level. I thought the SPCs were a little heavier because they're stone. They're definitely waterproof. What I found was people were having me do them in the winter. And the vinyl composite, the tongue and groove and the joinery, if it gets cold on a WPC, got to be careful because you knock it in, it breaks, it gets caught underneath, and now you get lippage. And I found, and by the way, when you tear the part of that tongue and groove on a WPC, you can pull it off like a Band-Aid, the whole length of the board. I found with the stone, if I got a chip, I could cut it with my knife and isolate it. Point being, I like what you're saying because this is telling people this is not DIY friendly. Would you agree? This stuff it might look simple. They might sell it on every channel. It is not really DIY friendly.
I would say so. You need to know all the ins and outs of it. You shouldn't install cabinetry over it. You need to know where to start with it.
Don't roll your fridge over it.
Exactly. Like if we install it on the second floor of a house, we're still starting at the bull nose, like we always do with hardwood, like with hardwood floors. This is something that really bugs the hell out of me. I see so many floors that weren't started at the bull nose. They're started at the wall and end at the bull nose. And then they cut a sliver of wood and then they put a bunch of face cleats through it. It's not tongue and groove. It moves independently of the bull nose. It is like one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is that and face nails. And so we take what we know of wood floors and we put it into vinyl, how to install them properly. And one of the big things is, because one of the terrible things or the things that overcome with pre-finished floors and vinyl floors is the nosing. The nosings are short, they're 7 feet at most. Some of them are really skinny, 3 inches, maybe 3.5 if you're lucky. We found that a lot of nosings from the factory don't match anyway. So you order them and they're like, wow, that looks like it's a totally different floor. And then the customer complains about it. So we gave up on factory nosings a long time ago in a lot of situations. And we'll use, wood nosings that we can get up to 16 feet long and use them even for vinyl floors.
Sure.
And we just glue where the nosing meets the vinyl and start in that spot. And that's really helped us, like having our wood knowledge. But it's definitely not a DIY floor. And most of the time I see the situations of a product failing, it is usually subfloor flatness. The floor is bouncing and moving, the lock opens up, and then once that happens, the whole floor starts to delaminate in spots. And then it's a disaster because these floors are not, friendly to taking up a lot of space in our landfills. So you're really wasting a product. I went to an estimate where the woman was on her 3rd floor after 5 years and decided that we were too expensive. But I was like, wow, what a waste. She's going to go to a 3rd vinyl floor, all of them installed improperly, and it'll probably be a 4th floor in another couple of years. But if you just have some knowledge of flooring installation, you know how to achieve subfloor flatness because they generally are pretty waterproof, but they're not waterproof from the underside. They're only waterproof from the top side. So spills, no problem. But if you're getting moisture under the slab, especially because I'll see a lot of guys install these over slabs, either on grade or below grade. If we're on a slab, we're putting down 6 mil polyethylene, or better yet, I would use a paintable moisture barrier like a PU 280 or something maybe from Ardex as well that I would protect the slab from moisture before I put them down. But I had a failure a long time ago from an on slab installation that would not have failed had we used 6 mil polyethylene. And that was probably 20 years ago now. And I decided that if I'm ever going to install vinyl over concrete, it's going to have a moisture barrier, whether the customer likes it or not. That's how we do it now, because I could have saved myself a lot of money. And that's how we've changed a lot of things. You lose money on something. Well, let's not do it that way anymore. Let's learn from our lessons. You got to learn from your lessons. And usually those lessons are hard learned because it cost you money. And once something costs you money, and I'm always a big proponent of you have to run a profitable business. If you're going to be in business and you're going to survive for a long period of time, you have to be profitable. I know there's statistics out there. I don't really know what they are, but I think it's like 95% of businesses fail after the first 5 years or something, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's a crazy statistic when you look at it. And I think a lot of those people were probably really good at what they did, whether it was baking cakes or making shoes or putting in floors. but they didn't know how to make money doing those things and how to save money and how to reinvest in their business. And so I think if there's something that I could say that people have to be good at, it's they have to know their worth and charge for it. They have to know what things cost them, and you have to charge accordingly. I see a lot of flooring businesses in our area go out, come and go constantly. And it's because they're trying to be, a bottom feeder, and they want to compete with the low end guys. And if you're going to charge $1.50 a square foot to install your floor and sand and finish it, you're not going to be in business long, because if you're lucky at the end of the day, if you made no mistakes, maybe you make 5%. You can't be that low on profit margin. You need to be closer to 20, 30, 40%. And there are times that we don't make a lot, but then there are other times where we make a lot more, and you can't feel guilty about those times when things went really well and you did make more.
No, once you set that bar, I see a lot of younger flooring installers that'll be, the builder gave me the whole development. I'm really low, but I'm thinking, yeah, well, what happened to the guy before you? You want to be very careful, because that builder will tell you in 3 months, I'll pay you on the next one. These I really got to call out a favor, but I'll pay you on the next. Nah, don't work that way. And you said it. People will say, oh, that guy they must be rich. They have a business. Go ask that guy if he'll sell it to you. There's a lot of people in business that can't wait to get out of it, because either you're running your business or it runs you. And, when you talk to all these people, whether it's in podcasts or in Wood Floor Business Magazine, the successful people, they have a head for that. They know, okay, the profit is a good thing and I deserve it. It's the one thing you don't give away.
We really love just being able to offer unique products, unique services, stuff that is always going to set us apart from our competition. That's one of the reasons I've been really big on UV cured finishes, because UV curing requires an investment in a UV curing machine, and that's not cheap. And at the end of the day, I make more money and more profitable with the UV jobs than I am with the jobs that aren't UV. And so I've always looked at things, if you could be unique and you can offer something that your competition can't do, then that is extreme value to not only your customer, but to your bottom line. Because at the end of the day, once we purchase that equipment, and that equipment's been purchased years ago now, it's all profit at that point. The finish is a little bit more than your average finish. Say, a good 2-component finish, say, costs $140, $150 a gallon, and a UV cured finish maybe costs $200 a gallon. So it does cost a little bit more. But if you're charging an extra $1, $1.50, $2 a square foot, that is insanely profitable, and that really helps you, set yourself apart from the competition. So I've always looked for those things. What could that be? How could we be unique and different? UV has helped. Selling products like Forbo has helped. Selling unique carpets that we have, like Roger Oates, which is from England, and offering different natural, sustainable, unique products this is how people find us a lot of times, I find.
And I remember my wife being in real estate and builders saying, nah, we're just going to put a laminate in here, let them buy the floors later. That changed. When the economy turned again, people were saying, I want wood. It always comes back to, you said sustainability, cork, glass, metal, stone, flooring, wool, all those things. It's not just being eco-friendly. It's that these products work, they breathe, they create value. And, there are a lot of consumers out there that are concerned with what they're breathing and how sustainable the products are in their home. And if you read what you've written online in Wood Floor Business Magazine, or some of the things you've done that you'll find on YouTube, you balance that out really well. It's not a big political statement. You're saying, listen, these products work and your customers want them. Let's be aware of them. I think your education in so many facets of this is pretty remarkable.
Well, I think a lot of it does come back to the fact that, I went to school for biology and I minored in chemistry. And so I have a pretty good background in science. I've always enjoyed science. I've always enjoyed the how and the why of things. And then besides that, I've always been very sensitive to solvents. Even before I started doing floors, I was sensitive to odors and things like that, like Febreze things like they instantly make me feel sick to my stomach. I want to throw up. And I don't feel well when I'm around either bad environments or solvent based products. So for me, it was you know, something that I did naturally for myself because I had to, because if I was around these products, I was not feeling well myself and I couldn't perform. So what could I use that didn't do that to me? What were the products that were either low VOC or zero VOC that didn't make me feel sick? Like the laminates of the past, you'd cut them and oh my God, the smells coming off of old Pergo floor. I mean, I would pretty much like be on the floor wanting to puke. You'd have to wear a respirator, you know, and so if somebody sees you like installing your floor and you're wearing a respirator, like how is that going to make them feel? You know, like, oh, this guy, he's putting a respirator, and then my kids are going to be crawling around on this floor 2 hours later. Like, that's not good. So, you know, that background in science, my ability to not be around solvents, I think has kind of forced me into thinking like that, but for the better of my clients. You know, what's going to have the most value and what's going to not only have the most value and last the longest, but be good for your indoor air quality. I'm always, that's something I think about quite a bit, their indoor air quality. And I think because other guys are not thinking about their indoor air quality, because as a flooring professional, you can completely degrade someone's indoor air quality for a long time. You know, the moisture cures of the past, the oil polys that were 5, 6, 7, 800 VOC grams per liter. You know, you go into a home a month later, it still smells like oil poly, you know, and those people, some of them don't care. Some of them love it. There are people out there who, you know, who will sit there and sniff the can, but there are other people who can't stand it, and they want to have somebody who understands that they can't stand it. And I have really been aware of that, and people find me, I think, for that reason too. And then I really am able to associate with them that, yes, this affects me too. I can't wear heavy perfumes, or my wife wear heavy perfumes or colognes, and I can't be around Febreze and all these things. And those things affect me too. And I want to care about the odors in your home and how could we avoid them. So, you know, a lot of those things are important to me. Having my own guys has really helped with that. You know, we don't really sub things out other than a few things, like I talked with Greg Lewis with the stenciling. But for the most part, all of our crews are our own guys. So I thought that was always unique. And I want it to be very unique in that way with owning a brick and mortar. Because what I found with most brick and mortars is that they sub everything in. We don't really sub anything out. Everything is in-house payrolled employees who started with my first 2 guys, who then helped me train my next 2 guys, and those guys helped me train my next 2 guys. And the one thing is you have to treat them well, and you have to give them things that others don't give them. You know, paid time off, 401k, health insurance, things that a lot of flooring guys are looked down upon as, you know, we're the bottom of the barrel, you know, trade guys. We're flooring guys. Who cares about us? But you have to treat them as if they're not. They're really important, because I was an installer, and I wanted to be treated better, and I wanted those things. And if you want a family and you want to stay in this country, and you know you want to be able to retire someday, you have to have things like your 401k and health insurance and paid time off to be with your family. And so those are things that took us a little while to get going in the business, like a 401k. We didn't have one for a long time. Now we've had one for a while. We give like a 3% match to our employees. But I find that if you want to have people to stick around, you need to care about them, and you need to, you know, my financial advisor put it to me this way: it's golden handcuffs to some degree.
Golden handcuffs.
You know, golden handcuffs. You're not going to find that in other flooring companies. So we have taken on employees for several reasons. One, they weren't getting paid from their other employer. You know, maybe that week I wasn't getting paid because maybe he went to Atlantic City and gambled all the money away, or he spent it on drugs or whatever it might be.
Right.
And then not only that, but having high-end work. I think once you start getting used to doing high-end work as an installer, it's hard to go backwards. It's hard to go and say, okay, well, I'm going to now work with this rotary peeled Bruce floor and install it all day long in track houses. and no floor prep, just install right over spackle and paint and everything else, and not care about anything. And they're not going to care about me, and they're going to make me drive 3 hours away from my house just to work, and they're going to make me work 14-hour days because I got to drive 3 hours away from my house. And so we've sustained employees because we try to stay local, we try to treat them well, we give them time off with their families. Like I said, we work with better products that are better for their air quality and products that they're using. And so I care about that for me, and I care about that for all my employees. And I think that has really helped us build because people want to come to work for us in the area because they want to learn. They know that we know more than most of our competition. So even if maybe they're not going to stay, they want to come and learn from us. But once they come, it seems like they're not leaving.
How about we wrap it up? I give you your quick fire questions, and
Sure.
we can go off and do our thing.
Yeah, what do you got?
All right, here we go. So if you weren't in hardwood flooring, what would you be doing?
I would be a park ranger, I think.
Nice.
I love being in the woods. I love mountain biking, and I guess I wouldn't mind carrying a gun.
We're going to get to that. They make a Lifetime movie about you. What actor plays you?
Oh, geez, I'm not good with actors. Laura, who do you think actor would play me? Ethan Hawke. That's what I was.
Thank you, Laura. He's got more. You see that? He got more people working for you back there, Hollywood. I knew it. He has an entourage. Is there a limo up front of your place when you live? All right, you can. All right, this is where we're getting at. All right, so you can only pick one. You can work out in the field, or you can work the showroom.
Field for sure.
All righty.
No question about it.
They make me ask this one, and you got a lot of stuff going on. Is there any carpet in your home?
Oh, absolutely, but it's all wool.
See
and
that?
it's not wall to wall. It's all area rugs.
And right back to it's definitely eco-friendly. All right. Yeah, in what you do, you got a pet peeve? Is there something that really pisses you off?
Face nails.
Thank you. All right. This is your toughest. This is your last question. This is the toughest one. You got to put these in ranking order. Snowboarding, single track mountain biking, or Pilates class? Rank them. Snowboarding? Yep. 1, 2. What's your number 1, number 2, number 3? Go 3, 2, 1. Pilates class, snowboarding, or single track mountain biking?
Single track mountain biking is definitely my favorite.
Okay. Second?
Then Pilates, just because it's so convenient and I can do it in my living room with my kids. I've been teaching my kids Pilates too. And then snowboarding, but mostly because snowboarding takes quite the effort to get out there, and it's hours. You got to go for a weekend or at least a couple days. But if I live right next to a mountain, snowboarding may be it. But it's more about convenience, I think, for that.
Well, people think I'm goofing around. No, we're going to do coming up very soon. We're doing a whole article on health in flooring and medically. We spoke with OT, PT, a surgeon. I have a lot of people that are getting on in years, and their flooring is finally paying. And they're like, I don't want to get out of it now, and then they want to be able to do it. So we asked a lot of people online, is there anything you do? And we figured, we get a few people. No, 100% of everybody asked had an answer for what they do. And I know that Wade had spoken a while back. You mentioned Pilates class, and I'm like, he's right. I'm getting a little older too, and I like doing flooring. I just did a 6,000 footer. I could barely walk. You need to move. You need to be healthy. You need to get out there. You need to have hobbies. You need to do things. So this gives you and I more to talk about, because we got to talk about UV flooring at some point, and because I have my opinions about that too, and maybe we'll get a chance to do this again. But I really, really, really appreciate finally getting a chance to get together with you and chat. And I told you if we spoke 10 minutes, it would be longer. We got this. Can't put 2 floor pros in a room and not talk.
No, it's pretty easy. That's why I like going to the NWFA conventions. It's like, you got a sore voice at the end of a couple days there.
It is great. Well, listen, Adam Bissey, Floors by the Shore, thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Stephen.
All right, we will talk soon. Take care.
I really appreciate Wood Floor Business and everything you and Kim has done.
They're great, aren't they?
Bye-bye.
I love that lady. All right, thanks. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Adam. Take care. Say hi, Lisa and Laura. Bye, Laura. She's hiding back there.
She's there somewhere.
And I say that with peace and love.
Thanks, Stephen. Talk to you soon.
You got it.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of All Things Wood Floor. To read Adam Bissey's articles in Wood Floor Business and read more about his recognition as a recipient of the Wood Floor Business Outstanding Retailer Award, go to woodfloorbusiness.com and put Adam's name in the search bar. That's Adam, Bissey. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate and review this podcast and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for listening.